It's the Trinamool Congress versus the Bharatiya Janata Party over Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose's legacy ahead of Bengal elections. The Bengal government is celebrating the 125th birth anniversary of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose as the Desh Nayak Diwas. To honor Netaji, the BJP, of course, is celebrating this day as Parakram Diwas. Mamata Banerjee began her program by paying tribute to Netaji at the Netaji Bhavan. She held a huge road show from Shyam Bazar to Mayo Road. Nusrat Jahan accompanies Mamata Banerjee on her march. Mamata Banerjee launched a scathing attack against the Bharatiya Janata Party, saying that India must have 4 capitals. She slammed the BJP for disbanding the Planning Commission in the national capital. Mamata Banerjee then went on to say that she has questions about BJP's newfound love for Netaji. She demanded that Planning Commission be brought back. This was Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose's idea. Remember, it was the Narendra Modi government who changed the Planning Commission to Niti Aayog in 2015. The Bengal Chief Minister accused the centre of destroying the federal structure. Taking a jibe at BJP's Parakram Diwas, Didi demanded that the 23rd of January be declared a national holiday. She said Netaji was a Desh Premi. Rabindranath Tagore had called him Desh Nayak after Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose had said that Jan Gan Man should be India's national anthem.
Kolkata একদিন ভারতবর্ষের রাজধানী ছিল যে কলকাতা একদিন মনে রাখবেন কলকাতা থেকে ভারতবর্ষ ইংরেজরা চালাতো এমনি এমনি কলকাতাকে সিলেক্ট করা হয়েছিল তেমনি যদি তাই হয় তাহলে আজকে ভারতবর্ষের একটা রাজধানী কলকাতা কেন হবে না আমি তো মনে করি ভারতবর্ষের একটা রাজধানী কলকাতা হতে হবে আমি সেন্ট্রাল গভর্নমেন্টকে আবার বলবো ভারতবর্ষের রাজধানী ভারতবর্ষের 4টে প্রান্তে একটা দক্ষিণ একটা উত্তর একটা পূর্ব একটা নর্থ ইস্টার্ন করা উচিত বলে আমি মনে করি একটা রাজধানী কেন থাকবে 4টে থাকবে আর 4টে ঘুরিয়ে ঘুরিয়ে সুদীপদা আপনারাও দাবি করবেন আপনাদের সংসদীয় অধিবেশন কেন একটা জায়গায় সীমাবদ্ধ থাকবে প্ল্যানিং কমিশনটা আমাদের হারিয়ে গেল ভারতবর্ষের প্ল্যানিং কমিশন তুলে দেওয়া হলো তুলে দিয়ে একটা নীতি আয়োগ তৈরি করা হলো নীতি আয়োগ তৈরি হতেই পারতো প্ল্যানিং কমিশনটাকে রেখে ন্যাশনাল প্ল্যানিং কমিশন আবার ফিরিয়ে দিতে হবে এটা নেতাজি সুভাষচন্দ্র বোসের রক্তে গাথা মর্মে গাথা বীর গাথা কাহিনী এই কাহিনীকে ভুলিয়ে দিলে চলবে না কেন্দ্রীয় সরকার কিন্তু আজ পর্যন্ত ছুটির দিন ডিক্লেয়ার করেনি আমাদের দুঃখ আছে আমি এটাকে পরিষ্কারভাবে প্রতিবাদ জানিয়ে বলছি নেতাজি সুভাষচন্দ্র বোসের জন্মদিনে জাতীয় ছুটির দিবস ঘোষণা করতেই হবে টুডে অর টুমরো বলে গেলাম আজকে আপনারা তো করছেন 14,000 কোটি টাকা দিয়ে সংসদ তৈরি করছেন নতুন করে প্রয়োজন ছিল না এক্ষুনি আপনারা হাজার হাজার কোটি টাকা দিয়ে প্লেন কিনছেন প্রয়োজন ছিল না এক্ষুনি কিন্তু একবারও তো বললেন না একটা আজাদ হিন্দ ফৌজ একটা ময়দান একটা মনুমেন্ট হওয়া উচিত দেশপ্রেমিক দিবস বা দেশনায়ক দিবস কেন হবে না পরাক্রম দিবস क्या है পরাক্রম হোয়াট ইজ দ্য মিনিং যদি কিচ্ছু না আমাকে পছন্দ না করুক রাজনৈতিকভাবে কেন্দ্রীয় সরকার যদি আমাকেও একটু জিজ্ঞেস করতো আরে আমায় ছেড়ে দাও সুগত সুমন্তদের জিজ্ঞেস করতে পারতো যে বলো কোন ওয়ার্ডটা ইউজ করা উচিত বিশ্বকবি রবীন্দ্রনাথ ঠাকুর সবচেয়ে প্রথম নেতাজি সুভাষচন্দ্র বসুকে দেশনায়ক রূপে আখ্যা দেন
Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose was truly a visionary, a statesman. He set up India's first government. Not only that, that government actually had its own intelligence network, its own army, the Azad Hind Fauj. That army had a women's regiment, the Lakshmibai Brigade, the regiment. Not only that, that had its own mint, it had its own currency. Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose had struggled extensively for India's independence struggle. He went from India via Afghanistan to Germany, then took a submarine, went to Singapore, went to Japan, sought help of Japan and Germany for an armed struggle for India's independence. And those are live images that we see of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's aircraft landing at the Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose International Airport in Kolkata. That's the Prime Minister's aircraft, the Prime Minister has landed in Kolkata for the grand celebrations of the 125th birth anniversary of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose is hailed as one of the greatest architects of independence movement in India. Incidentally, historians are increasingly now talking about the fact that it was Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose that the British actually feared. Clement Attlee, former British Prime Minister, he went on record to say that British signed independence of India because the British feared Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. He was such a visionary that the British Indian Army, there was a mutiny in the Indian Navy. Officers were no longer, and men were no longer accepting commands of British officers, and the British realized if this is the state, they cannot govern India anymore. Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose had set up the first Indian government, a government that had its own currency, its own intelligence network. Many argue, again, this is a big debate amongst historians at this point of time, that Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose was more popular than even Mahatma Gandhi. Because he was more popular, some argue that he was systematically marginalized. But now we see a complete change in that thinking. I want to cut across to India Today's Paulami Saha, who joins us for more on the story. Also, Tanushri Pandey joins us for more from Kolkata. Both reporters joining me from Kolkata. And Paulami, while there is a political legacy war that's on, but there is also the realization of this fact that Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose finally appears to be getting his due in our country.
Well, absolutely, Gaurav. You know, there has been a lot of debate about the fact that whether Netaji and his prominence in the Indian independence struggle was in some ways not highlighted eventually by those of our historians who then wrote the history books that you and I have read, whether Netaji was not given due credit for the contribution that he put forward as far as, you know, India's freedom movement is concerned. You mentioned about the fact that, you know, many felt that he was marginalized by the Congress party itself, whose presidentship he in fact held twice successively and had to give up at one instance because his own relations with Mahatma Gandhi were not on a very good ground, though Netaji continued to pay tribute to Mahatma Gandhi. In fact, I will ask my camera person Sanjay to pan across to behind me and try and show you some of those images. One of the images right behind me inside Netaji Bhavan, where I'm standing right now, Gaurav, is of the Haripura Congress in Gujarat in 1938 when Netaji was elected Congress president. He didn't stay Congress president for very long because of differences that emerged with Mahatma Gandhi, who personally did not identify much with Netaji's aggressive style, thought that he was aligning with fascist forces. There were many differences in the way that both of them looked at each other, but like I said, he did pay his tribute to Mahatma Gandhi. In fact, the regiments inside the Indian National Army that he went on to take charge of from Ras Bihari Bose and Mohan Singh in 1942 had in fact names of the tallest leaders of the Indian freedom movement. So he had a Mahatma Gandhi regiment, a Nehru regiment, a Maulana Azad regiment, and like you also mentioned, an all-women regiment. The first time an armed movement, an Indian army of sorts, had an all-women regiment, which was, of course, named after Rani of Jhansi. So this is the sort of legacy that Subhash Chandra Bose has. A lot of people you speak to, not just in Bengal, but across the world, and because he left his imprint in, you know, many Southeast Asian countries, for instance, aside from Germany, where he was, in Japan, in Burma, in Singapore, in Malaysia. Many believe that Netaji did not get the sort of due credit that he should have been given for his contribution to the Indian independence movement, Gaurav.
Yes. Stay with me for a moment, and over the course of the next several hours, we'll talk in greater detail about Netaji's thinking, but his valor, his selfless service to the country. People in Bengal know all about it. People who read about Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, Tanushri, they know all about it. But even as a young child, as a teenager, he wrote a letter to his mother, Tanushri, where he asked her, how long will we remain slaves of the British? When will we get independence? When will our country finally be independent? And that fervor, in a way, once again, the nation getting to do, the nation at large, Tanushri, getting to know about Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, of course, leads to a big legacy war between the TMC and the BJP, Tanushri.
That's right, Gaurav. In fact, you know, as you rightly said, that finally Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose is getting his due. He's being recognized, as one of the tallest leaders this country has ever saw. And today, while the TMC and both the Bharatiya Janata Party are making allegations at each other, saying that both the parties are using Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose as a political stunt, as a political prop, but the state, especially the state of West Bengal and the entire country today, feels that Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose should always have been celebrated this way. Today, the way today the TMC and the BJP are celebrating this day. Now we are at the National Library of India, Gaurav, as you can see right behind me. This is one place which will be visited by Prime Minister Narendra Modi at about 4 p.m. And we know that this place, Gaurav, is the largest library by volume and public record. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi, what we have been told, that Prime Minister is going to arrive here at 4. He is going to visit the artist camp and going to meet and felicitate the artists who have made a tableau on Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose's life, on his army's work, on his work, on the uniform. So everything associated with Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose has been featured in the tableau, and the artists who have made that, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be meeting those artists at about 4:15 p.m. Gaurav, this is what we have been told. Prime Minister is going to deliver a valedictory address in international seminar on Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. So Prime Minister there is making sure that he could do everything possible to make sure to give the kind of recognition Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose deserve. And this entire lane today, Gaurav, I'll ask my camera person to pan on and show you. This entire lane today is filled with BJP flags. You can see right there, the saffron flags are all over this entire lane in Alipur, where the National Library of India is situated. At around, Prime Minister has already landed in Kolkata, and we have been told in a short while from now at about 4 p.m. he will be visiting the National Library, where he will be seeing the tableau, the work, the exhibition on Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose's life. Back to you.
Stay with me, Paulomi and Tanushri. I also want to bring in Professor Monojit Mandal, who joins me on the broadcast. Professor Mandal, this is about celebrating Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. Should there be this quibble between the TMC and the BJP? It's, after all, one of India's biggest icons who's being celebrated and celebrated in style. Why can't our nation do this together, sir? Is that not possible?
I mean, to be quite fair to this, verbal duel between the two political parties, I'm really happy as an academic. At least Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose and his legacy are now being discussed in the national stage, and so is, about God. Look at these two great sons of India who were never recognized like the other two great sons of India, Nehru and Gandhi. I mean, you'd know that, Gandhi, when he came back to India in 1915, the first place that he visited was Shantiniketan in 1915 itself. The day is still celebrated as, Gandhi visit day. Many of us don't know that they had a tremendous kind of bonhomie between two. In fact, let me tell you this, before every other political activity that Gandhi, would be embarking, he would seek Tagore's blessings. Many times Tagore would not agree with them. The fact remains that if they are, bringing these two great icons of India in the national stage, I think there is no problem with that. But at the same time, both the political parties at least need to follow.
Then why this argument? Why this argument when Mamata Banerjee, Professor, if I may, Professor, if I may, why would then Mamata Banerjee say, what is Parakram? I don't understand Parakram. Why is this Parakram Diwas? It is Desh Nayak Diwas. It is Desh Nayak Diwas, but it is also Parakram Diwas. Again, that question. There is no doubt about Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose's valor, the statesman that he was, the fact that undercover he went from India to Afghanistan to Germany, took a submarine, got the Azad Hind Fauj to fight the British Indian Army. So is this not Parakram?
Yeah, absolutely. I think both are applicable. I think Mamata is quite right while saying that, why Netaji should not be called Desh Nayak.
In fact, it was Tagore who rightly pointed out that, called Netaji Desh Nayak in 1939 in one of the celebrations when Tagore was definitely extremely old. I think both are quite applicable. Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose and Desh Nayak should have been the perfect word because we call someone father of the nation, rightly so. Despite the fact that Subhash Chandra Bose had differences with Mahatma Gandhi, they had tremendous respect for each other. Yes, it is true in the history that because of Mahatma Gandhi and Nehru, Subhash Chandra had to leave Congress, and many would believe that the country itself, it was definitely a kind of joint venture of both Gandhi and Nehru by driving Netaji out. I mean, this is fact of the history. You cannot deny it. And this is also a fact of the history, Gaurav, that we don't really need Netaji's legacy. I mean, do you remember reading Netaji in your school textbook, in college textbook, in university textbook? In fact, both the governments, I would urge both the government, the central and the state government, to first include Netaji and his legacy in the school books,
yes,
in the college and university books, to know him, the kind of person that he was. Yes, there are controversies about his death, what happened to him after 1945, but we know for certain that there is a life of Netaji which should be celebrated. But because of a kind of narrative of historians,
Morajit Mandal, sir, I couldn't agree with you more, sir. I couldn't agree with you more. Absolutely, and I want to bring in Polomi once again. Polomi, increasingly now historians are saying this in public domain and political writers that Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose was more popular than even Mahatma Gandhi at one point of time in the Congress in the country, and that is why in that election that you talk about for the Congress president, you're looking at those images and describe those images to us and that story where Mahatma Gandhi said that Pattabhi Sitaramaya's victory would be his victory and his defeat would be Gandhiji's defeat, and yet Netaji Bose won. Yet he was marginalized. Polomi, can you hear me?
Yes, Gaurav, I can hear
I'll
you.
reestablish that link with Polomi Saha in just a moment. Okay, Polomi, you're looking at those images when Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose said no. When Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose said no to Indian civil services, he went and met Mahatma Gandhi first. Mahatma Gandhi was his icon, was his role model. And even when he set up, India's government in exile, as some argue, or India's government before 1947, he wrote to Gandhiji saying, it's your leadership, it's your guidance that we require at this critical juncture, despite the fact that he was marginalized in the Congress party despite winning elections.
That's right. We have spoken about the differences that Mahatma Gandhi and Subhash Chandra Bose may have had. But the fact is that as far as their relationship is concerned, Subhash Bose definitely had a lot of respect for Mahatma Gandhi. And that is something, like I said, it was demonstrated by him earlier as well, when in fact he did go on to then form the Indian National Army. Like I said, he was in fact paying his tribute to Mahatma Gandhi as well, when he in fact formed a regiment which was dedicated to Mahatma Gandhi as well. He had a lot of respect for him. He continued to sort of correspond with him, to of course pay his respects to him. He did not take offense to any sort of vision that the Mahatma may have had about how Subhash perceived the independence movement. That was not something that he took any sort of affront of with or offense with. He continued to, of course, perceive his vision, to, of course, pursue his vision. But as far as his own tribute towards Mahatma Gandhi was concerned, he continued to maintain that respect.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But what was the way of getting independence? What did Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose say? Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose was very clear. तुम मुझे खून दो, मैं तुम्हें आजादी दूंगा. That's liberty. Freedom requires sacrifice, requires blood. And this was Netaji's thinking. Ultimately, it was proven to be true. India got independence because the British realized they could not govern this country as long as the Indian National Army and its warriors were inspiring the British Indian Army, and there was a mutiny. But India Today's Manogya Loiwal is standing by at the Victoria Memorial. This is where Prime Minister would be speaking in a short while from now. The aim of the Parakram Diwas is to inspire Gen Next of India to realize and recognize all our true heroes. Manogya Loiwal sends us this report.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be visiting Victoria Memorial. Interestingly, he will be celebrating and will be participating in the 125th birth anniversary of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. This is also known, will now be known as Parakram Diwas, as is being celebrated by the Government of India. But what would be special at Victoria Memorial today? Victoria Memorial completes 100 years this year, and today there will be celebrations with 120 kids performing on various songs composed on and around Netaji's life. Especially even the Azad Hind Fauj, the various slogans that have been there will also be used. Now these are the paintings that will be dedicated to the country and have been very beautifully made by people who've participated in various competitions made by and done by Eastern Zonal Cultural Centre by the Ministry of Culture, Government of India. These are, of course, depicting the entire lifestyle and lifespan of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, depicted in 10 paintings, beautifully done by some of the best artists of the country in Bengal, and presented here to the country in the presence of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. As the Government of India celebrates Parakram Diwas, this is also a year of elections in Bengal, and what would remain aloof when it happens somewhere around election. With camera person Tapas Berry, this is Manogya Loiwal in Kolkata for India Today.
But Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose is so much bigger than any election. He said, freedom is not given, freedom is taken. He gave the slogan of Jai Hind. His song, कदम कदम बढ़ाए जा, खुशी के गीत गाए जा, ये जिंदगी है कौम की, तू कौम पे लुटाए जा, is today the Indian Army song. This was the song of the Azad Hind Fauj. We slip into a quick break.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kamal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.